popcorn. We are two niggas spoiling movies. Yeah. Brandon Collins, that's me, and Justin Brown for your movie needs. Media popcorn. Woo! You haven't seen it, well, we're gonna spoil it. Spoil it in your face. That's your warning. So if you get pissed, it's all your fault. Woo-hoo. Woo-hoo. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?
His master gonna get on the hay.
That too. I'm Eddie Collins, everybody.
Guys, it's Justin Brown.
We are Media Popcorn niggas spoiling movies, but we're not really spoiling this movie because y'all should have seen this.
If you haven't seen this by now, how dare you?
Yeah, you've been hiding under a rock. But to help us break down this movie, it's been a long time coming. I'm so excited to have this man on the podcast. He's the nicest man in comedy. He is a correspondent on The Daily Show and just recently had a film, Confess Fletch, out on all that stuff. Roy Wood Jr., how you doing, sir?
Hello. Please do not review that film on this podcast. I don't want our friendship to be in jeopardy if I don't like your opinion.
Roy, to that point, I did your podcast, Roy's job fair.
Yes.
And you asked me, you were like, hey, what are you going to do if you ever run to anybody whose films you critiqued and like you shit on? And actually, I'm in a writer's program, and my mentor is, in fact, a director-writer who we have, both criticized films and also praised it. But we got over that. We got over that bridge. We good. We good. But that was when I had that first conversation with him. I'm like, think about Roy Wood Jr. saying, "What you gonna do, man? It's
that day is coming." You know what though? Creators can't be all sensitive, man. Nothing you create is your child. It's your stepchild. You just love it a little while, and if someone hates it, it's okay. Like if you're a parent and someone hates your stepchild, it doesn't sting the same as if they say that your child is ugly.
Yeah, it's like it didn't come from your blood.
Yeah, I mean, everything you create, eventually you let go of and forget about and evolve from. So there's no sense in letting someone's lack of agreement throw you off. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. We're going to talk about Bad Boys. I'm sure we're all going to praise Martin Lawrence and Will Smith and their amazing chemistry. But we're also going to say, it was hard for me to watch this without remember what Will Smith did to Chris Rock earlier this year.
Really?
It wasn't for me. I'm sorry. I enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed it. I wish more people got slapped in this movie. The new Will Smith should have gotten this movie and slapped somebody because it needed to be more smacks.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's for sure my most favorite action movie.
Yeah, it's
Terminator 2.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Banger.
I mean,
but this has more laughs. This has more laughs, though.
Okay, if we're gonna go action comedy, for sure, buddy cop action comedy, I'm gonna for sure say funnier than Lethal Weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Better action than
Is 48
Rush
Hours
Hour
an action comedy?
I think it's considered one, but I don't.
Or is that just a straight up comedy?
I feel like it's more of a straight comedy than it is action comedy, though.
It's a buddy comedy, but it's not a cop. Let's keep it cop, so I don't have to choose between Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence.
Okay.
Peak Martin Lawrence, mind you.
Yes.
Yeah, better than Rush Hour. Yeah. Rush Hour was different though because you had a different type of
dynamic.
Yeah, a different type of dynamic, and also Jackie Chan is physical comedy, where Will Smith was not comedy at all. It was all like Martin drove the comedy. Will was the sarcasm that he was the light that lit Martin.
Yes.
Yeah.
In most scenes, like Will's job was to get Martin riled up, and then Martin does the show, and then Will can button it, like he'll button the scene or whatever.
And it worked out.
And then at the time, he was also like the sex appeal for the ladies to keep them in their seats.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Hey, Listen, Michael Bay is very open about that shot what Will Smith is running with his shirt flowing out when he's trying to chase after the
Mhm.
Taya Leone and the gangster dudes. He said to Will Smith, "I'm gonna make you a star with this scene." I mean,
Yeah,
Will Smith was already a star, but this made him a movie star.
yeah. The story was that Will Smith didn't want to open his shirt. He wanted to keep the shirt closed, and Michael Bay, and they argued about it for like 30 minutes. It held up the production while they argued about his shirt being open, and Michael Bay was right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
'Cause
mean,
I see that scene. I'm just like, go ahead, Will. Your muscles are pumping. You gotta get it. You gotta get it.
Justin was home alone last night, so he had a good time watching this.
Why you gotta go like that, man?
All right,
You
all right.
lucky I ain't in LA.
We do have to say, Michael Bay. Kudos to Michael Bay because this movie was made. This came out in 1995, and it stars two black men. And yes, they are like both like on the rise. Marlon Lawrence, Will Smith, but this is a predominantly black or people of color cast. I was actually like, oh shit, I forgot that. Besides like Taya Leone and Joe Pantoliano, it's mostly black people. You know, you got Martin
Yeah,
Stanley and all that. And I'm like, and they're in a big budget action comedy.
yeah.
This
There's
is
two
awesome.
Cuban cops.
Whoever the
Teresa
doorman guy
Randall
is.
as Martin's wife. And then like even some of the smaller players were all black, or and even the
Or
Italians.
or ambiguous.
Yeah,
Michael
Imperial.
Yeah, the last name I always fuck up a syllable
Imperioli,
on.
something
Imperioli only. You know the one.
Just call him Christopher.
Imperial
Just call him
cannoli.
Yeah. He was the one cameo that I was praying that they would bring back in part 3 for Bad Boys for Life. I was like praying he would come back, but they didn't. Him and John Sally. Because part 3,
JoJo.
Bad Boys 3 almost plays, because it tips so much to the original here and there, it almost plays as a direct sequel, but it's almost kind of like a homecoming. I know this podcast isn't about Bad Boys for Life, but like those characters that were only on scene once or twice, but were just fucking memorable.
Yeah.
Like John Sally is hilarious. Like that was also, if we're talking comedy as well, like, Michael Bay is like this big time, he's seen as an action director.
Explosion guy.
But if you watch Bad Boys and you watch Pain and Gain with Wahlberg and
The Rock, Anthony
Wahlberg and Anthony Mackie, his use of camera lenses to accentuate, I know angular comedy isn't the word, but the way he would use lenses to help with the comedy of a scene. So there's a scene in Bad Boys, just 2 scenes, where John God damn it, Spider, John Sally's character is a hacker, and of course he's ex-NBA, so he dwarfs Martin, and Martin is fucking with him while he's sitting down, and you don't know you don't know how much taller he is. And John Sally springs to his feet and is looking down on Martin. And they shoot that scene down onto Martin. And I don't know if it was full fisheye, but it was definitely something where it made Martin's eyes even, his face was just bigger in the frame.
I'll knock you the fuck out.
If you don't sit down. There was that. And then there's a scene where Teresa Randall catches Martin at the house with Taya Leone and thinks that they're fucking. And Martin's trying to explain to her, this is a material witness. I'm not fucking no white girl. And everything Martin is saying is not landing. He's stuttering. His face and his mouth can't get in sync. It's like classic Martin stutter step comedy. And the way the lens is used, and that definitely wasn't fisheye, but it like made Martin look so much smaller in the frame.
Yeah, Michael Bay knows what he's doing when he comes to shooting stuff. It's
because Martin was like, in that scene, he's losing this battle again, so you can't have him dominant.
Yeah. He's shrinking as you're watching him. Yeah, it
Yes,
almost it feels like that, and it almost somehow visually looks that way as well.
correct.
Yeah.
And like that shit was just, I don't know. It's I don't know shit about directing. I don't know shit about lenses, but I just know that going back and watching it, that's something where I'm like, oh yeah, well that got an extra laugh.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I was talking to Justin before you got on, Roy. Is like this made me laugh from start to finish. Like I was so surprised by how much it holds up. Like the improvisation scene in the car where Martin says, "Oh, we're just gonna be two dead bitches in the sea." Like that's such a funny
Yeah,
2 minutes of dialogue, banter back and forth, and it establishes the characters so well that when you get to like the action scenes, you really want them to be okay. Like when Marlon gets fucked up in the bathroom, that's one of my favorite action fight scenes. When he gets ambushed in the
hmm
bathroom, has to beat those two dudes up because he has the bag around his head, and you see him gasping for air. I'm like, oh, there's some real stakes to this shit.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
The bickering dynamic is also how the film opens, like that dynamic of almost a husband and wife,
Yeah.
type is very, kind of husband and wife, which is really different from a lot of other cop movies. Um,
because they bicker, and I think other buddy cop movies they bicker. It's more like ego, kind of thing. But the bickering this one, like you said, it echoes more husband and wife. And then the fact
correct.
is, they bring it back 3 times. So they use the law of three, So they bring it back
hmm
3 times within there because you have the one at the beginning, the one in the convenience store, and then just at the end when they're driving, chasing the villain in the car, and Will Smith is still, yammering in his ear as he's trying to drive and all that. It's like it just
Yeah.
like they just keep that trope coming back, and they're playing off, and they're doing it the right way.
I love the convenience scene, the convenience store scene when Marlon's just, do you just attract violence? Like, what is happening? Like,
Just random people,
even though I
which
do
is a
feel bad.
callback, which is a callback to the top of the movie, to the cold open in the movie. I just hang out with stupid ass friends who drive stupid ass
Fast
cars that
cars.
attract a lot of motherfucking attention.
Yep.
Now, here's the thing, though, and Justin and I talked a little bit about this in our Bad Boys 3 review. The Mike and Marcus history, I don't think they ever fully cleared that up and like how long they've actually known each other. Because there's times where, Will Smith is like, where he's like, oh, I forgot about that. Like when they're going through like the yearbooks and stuff like that, and in the scrapbook, he's like, oh, I forgot that he had this afro, blah blah blah. And then later on, he's like, I've known you my whole life. You're my boy, and whatever. And then I remember in the third one, they were like, Mike Lowry went on undercover for what, a few years because he hooked up with the one queen pin, and we were like, what? Like I thought they were boys for their whole lives.
Oh
How are
yeah.
these gaps in knowledge of what each one was doing?
Okay,
Fuck, that's
so
good. That's a good
but
catch
here's
because
the
in
thing.
part two they talk about the high school. He shows the high school photos as if they were
Yep.
high school buddies.
But at the same time, well, yeah, I guess at that point, he would have known that he's not necessarily a trust fund kid,
Exactly.
unless he's they were in high school, and then like the thing is like, oh, when his parents died, he got left this money. No, some people don't know that their parents leaving them a ton of money until they get that money. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it was a dead
hmm
uncle or something like that. But yeah, that is kind of a hole there.
Listen, I know for sure that I'm not getting no money from my parents when they pass. I know if anything, I gotta pay them when they pass. They
hmm
take care of the funeral and all that stuff and whatever outstanding debts they got. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what my mom got into. I might have a nigga knocking on my door about to break my knees after she passes. But
Yeah.
what Justin? What's your favorite stuff like parts about this movie?
uh, well, I mean, I love the bickering. I mean, because like when I watch this movie, it almost reminds me of my older brother and I, because we bicker the same kind of way. But then it's like this is also like that. This is that movie that me and my best friend kind of bonded over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like it's
Mm.
so I have those two parallels right there. So it's like the whole relationship between Martin and Will is like it reminds me of my brother, but then it's just like we ride together, we die together, bad boys for life. That whole thing, like my friend and I, we've been saying that shit ever since the 6th grade. So, that's kind of just, this
So,
movie, it just like hits on different levels for me. It's like, this is nostalgic, and it just speaks to the roots of who Justin is.
There's also just some
mhm.
great quotes in this, like at the end when they confront the bad guy after he's crashed, and he's like, when you woke up this morning, you didn't think about 5 o'clock. It's like
You
stuff like
have a
that.
hole in your leg.
And it's surprising because Michael Bay had to like pay the studio to film some of the action scenes because they were so over budget and everything. Like there was a lot of sacrifice made to get this movie done, but it ended up being like the thing that blew up Will Smith as a movie star. And Martin, how many seasons of the show had he already done by this point? It's
I believe
95.
two.
Okay.
2, maybe 3. Martin was the more established star. Martin was top billed in the original Bad Boys, not Will Smith. But it was definitely a gamble. The best thing that I love about this movie is knowing that it was originally written for John Lovitz and Dana Carvey.
That's insane.
And that makes me laugh so motherfucking hard.
Bulletproof Hearts.
Like, those two definitely have a bickering dynamic that could work, but I would assume that it wasn't the same actions. I would assume John Lovitz with his shirt off running to jump on top of a taxi cab was not in the original Heart script. At least I'm hoping.
Yeah, I don't see Taylor Leone's character, which was originally Marissa Tomei was actually considered for that role as well.
Mhm.
I don't know if she would have been into either one of those guys, because Dana Carvey would just be over here doing different characters, and John Lovitz would just be complaining the whole time. So
Yeah.
there's
Well,
nothing fun
and
there.
it's crazy that Dana Carvey would have been the love interest in that film.
Hey,
You
people want to fuck
didn't
Garth.
think about that? What's that?
People want to fuck Garth though. Remember Wayne's World? He always got the hottest chicks.
Yeah, that's a character. We're talking
That's
about like a
character.
movie
Yeah,
like
they're talking about real life.
But I think it's also it's just weird because like Dana Carvey as well as John Lovitz, and nothing against those two greats in their respective fields, but like they both have like kind of like that kind of annoying kind of grindy voice for your ears. So I can't see the both of them being in a movie like this and them bickering back and forth. It would just sound like I don't know. It would not sound good. I don't know if I could watch that movie.
I for sure could watch that movie. I have no interest in ever watching that movie. I think that it would have worked great as a sketch of them pretending to be two Miami Vice-esque, types like that. I've got to one day, maybe I'll come back on this podcast in March or some shit and let your viewers decide, but I want to rank all-time cops in each fictional police department. Like where do Mike Lowry and Detective Burnett rank up against Crockett and Tubbs, Dexter Morgan, Horatio Kane from CSI, which is technically Miami-Dade. Like these are all Miami-Dade, honorable Miami-Dade entertainment police officers. Where do they like? We know Axel Foley's the greatest in Detroit Metro.
That's
next
right.
to RoboCop. Is it Axel Foley or RoboCop?
I mean, you can't ask Justin this because his son's name is Axel, and he just
who is the greater fictional Detroit cop? Chicago's got a shit. You get what I'm saying? Like one of these days, I'm gonna sit and just make a bracket.
It's definitely. What was that movie with? Oh my God!
Okay.
The one about the 60s where those kids got held up, by the police officers in that.
Oh, the riot with John Boyega, and they were in the
John
hotel.
Boyega.
Oh, Detroit.
Like,
yeah,
Detroit. Yeah. We can't put him on that list, right?
Well, the cop would be Will Poulter was the actor.
Yeah.
That dude was fucking. That movie is terrible, but that kid was fucking nuts.
Yeah, he was.
He brought his A game, but yeah, I did write down Miami Vice. Like I realized I had never watched the TV show, so I didn't know how much of that might have influenced this movie. I don't know. I didn't.
Not really. Not much. Not much. I mean, maybe a little bit of Will Smith. Will Smith's character is probably a little bit of Crockett in
Yeah.
terms of the sexy car and just the vibe or whatever, but not like the aesthetic in film as a whole. Like in Miami Vice, the city of Miami was a character
Okay.
in that film, like the presence of that city and the culture of it. Whereas I don't feel like Bad Boys really leaned that much into the culture of Miami. It didn't really need to. They would get the clue and then they just went from place to place investigating the next clue.
I would say
Like,
the third one, Miami's more of like the most of a character in the whole series, because I think the third one they
yeah.
shot it beautifully. Like,
Yeah.
they made
Yeah.
Miami want to be a place you want to go to, whereas in the first one, Miami seems like Gotham City, the way that
Well, I,
Will
no,
Smith
I
and
think
Myron
the
are going.
the second one kind of picked it up a little bit more because the drug drop, in the ocean, things like that, and then there's a lot more like Florida kind of thrown
Well,
in there.
but in the second one they go international, because remember, don't they go to Colombia or some shit for the
They
third
go to
act or
Cuba.
something? Yeah,
They go to
Yeah.
Cuba, but that's still
that was
Cuba, Miami. We just a raft away.
Mm, yep. This did give us the
Yeah.
beginning of the Will Smith, Martin Lawrence slowly getting up at like their the heroes, the bad guys are cornering our heroes and all is lost. That moment in the script when they both slowly get up and they're like, oh man, what we
In
gonna
the
do? Third act
360
time.
pan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that was kind of like the first time we ever got that in a film because Avengers did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when they all land in the first Avengers and they do the
Mhm.
circle shot, the kind of steady cam or whatever. Yeah, it was a good for a 90s action film, it was perfectly fine. I think that for sure, there's probably a world where well, I think it's one of the few cop movies, in my opinion, of the modern era that still is able to escape propaganda,
Yes.
Mm.
Absolutely.
And people forget Bad Boys for Life came out a month before the pandemic.
It came out in January and the pandemic started and like really blew up in the US in March.
Yeah,
And then
March.
George Floyd happened, and then fuck the police. And it was like this movie literally couldn't have come out.
At the best
It,
time.
it
mean,
literally like slid into home. Like just barely made it in.
I think it was actually the biggest movie that year too, 2020, because I think that Bad Boys for Life was unfortunately, or fortunate for some, that it was the last movie they saw before the pandemic. For me, unfortunately, it was Sonic the Hedgehog. But I remember that Bad Boys for Life was the biggest movie.
was the better movie.
And also the better movie, yes.
Yeah.
But the amount of destruction that they put throughout Miami in this movie, though, is out of control.
But isn't that like a police movie trope? Is like that these cops, they're doing the Lord's work and bringing these criminals to justice, but they are also destroying the very place that everybody is trying to inhabit all at the same time. Because like there are more explosions, there are more car crashes, bodies. Like Miami is riddled with nothing but dead bodies. Like how do kids walk to school in Miami with Marcus and Mike, walking these streets?
Give me Pacino from Heat. He was a good Miami Metro, a proud Miami Metro PD.
He's got a badass.
Burnett, I need you on a case. Yeah, there's the question. What Miami cop crossover world?
Oh my God,
would you want to see?
I would love to see Al Pacino's character in Bad Boys 4. That would be
Pacino.
Bro, why not?
I would have rather seen. I would like to have seen Dexter Morgan working one of Lowry's cases. Because the way Bad Boys for Life ends, it's clearly going to be a spinoff with the Psycho son or whatever. And I guess him and Mike Lowry doing their thing, because Burnett technically has retired.
Yes.
in theory. So yeah, give me Dexter Morgan. Like, imagine Dexter Morgan putting Fouché on that table, and then Mike Lowry and Burnett trying to figure out where the fuck is their drug kingpin. We were supposed to arrest him today. He's like, Dexter chopped him into pieces and put him in the fucking.
So speaking of Bad Boys 4, obviously we all really like this. We talked about how this kind of catapulted Will's movie career. How do we feel about a Bad Boys 4? Like, obviously I would like to see one, but I wasn't the biggest fan of the way the third one ended with, like, like Roy, you said, like this, the hinting at the spinoff or something.
Cliffhanger,
Yeah. But do you think there should be a Bad Boys 4? And
I'll watch it.
No, I don't think there should be a spinoff. I would watch a 4. I do think, depending on how Emancipation does for Will Smith, I think a safe move for an actor trying to get back into the good graces of the public is to return to a character that they know and love. So I think that could be what gives us a Bad Boys 4, is Will Smith's need for a cultural palate cleanser. Like that. We get to benefit from it. Anytime I see him become Mike Lowry, I'm with that shit. I'm cool with it. I would have liked to have seen a TV series, but I know we won't get that. And they tried to give us one with Gabrielle Union and Jessica Alba.
Yeah.
LA's Finest, which wasn't, to be fair, wasn't a bad show. They spun it off of Bad Boys to give it like that boost out the gate, but really it was just a buddy cop drama set in LA. Like, there was no fingerprint of Bad Boy. It wasn't even set in Miami. So like, it wasn't even, that didn't feel close enough to a true spinoff of the Bad Boys universe, even though it technically was. And I think what fucked them up, it was Charter or DirecTV, or it was a cable provider that bought that show, and then the cable provider started fucking with their episode count and their budget and all of this shit. Like, they never got, it was picked up for Fox and then got dropped before premiere, whatever. And then Spectrum or somebody was like, fuck it, we'll make your LA cop show, and then fucked them over. I wouldn't mind a TV series, though I know deep down it wouldn't be as good as the show.
Well, what if we got a TV show?
How do you cast those two?
Well, that's what I was going to say. What if you, and Justin and I were talking about this before we recorded, initially the idea was to have Wesley Snipes and Arsenio Hall or Eddie Murphy. You can't get
the original Eddie. Bad Boys?
You can't get Eddie, right? But you could possibly get Wesley. I don't know if you want to go with Arsenio, but you could definitely probably get Wesley for a TV show.
To buddy action?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but if you have to play them their age, then in theory they should be captains.
Bridges.
Yeah, it's Nash Bridges. I forgot about Nash Bridges. That's another Miami motherfucker.
No, that was San Francisco.
It's not Nashville?
Cheech Marin. Yeah.
No, Nash Bridges is San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
I love that show.
Yes, but see, I'm thinking more DC Young Fly, and then Craig Robinson or some shit.
Craig Robinson. Yeah, I can see Craig Robinson. But he's kind of. But then that's kind of giving you Lethal Weapon vibes, but just with two black men.
Yeah, because Craig is gonna be the hefty guy who I don't feel like running, and why I got to do all this shit.
Yeah. And then they're gonna play with, like, I'm the young and sexy, you're the old and busted kind of thing. They're gonna go.
I don't know. It's always a dice roll when you get into TV shows based on movies. It's always dangerous. It took them forever. They tried to do Beverly Hills Cop with Brandon T. Jackson. That pilot didn't go. Rush Hour. Shout out to the homie Justin Hires. That only won a season because people were forever trying to compare him to Chris Tucker.
Yeah.
Which wasn't fair, it's just a fucking TV show.
There's another one that came.
I enjoyed the Lethal Weapon TV show.
I know it was pretty good.
Yeah,
and that one guy went crazy.
Well, yeah, I know the issue was supposedly like they didn't get along or some
No,
shit, and
not at all.
because the show was a hit,
Mhm.
it was like a Deezus and Meryl situation. Like we could do more episodes, but we might put real bullets in the gun next week during the shootout scene. So, that one got killed because of lack of off-camera chemistry.
So this is my one question though. If we brought Will Smith back to a character that we all know and love to kind of reintroduce him to the public, is like, look, it's Will. Do we necessarily want to bring him back to the public with a character that's surrounded around violence? You know what I'm saying? I feel like if
Mm,
they're gonna do that, they're gonna bring back Hitch Will Smith or somebody like that that's like
yeah,
more lovable and it's just like very
Or you could do
subdued.
another Men in Black, and you could probably do a Men in Black 4, maybe.
yeah. That's
Yeah, because
probably safer than
yeah,
a Bad Boys 4.
Yeah.
yeah, because and that's bringing in the kids.
Yeah, I could see that. But then if we know one thing about movies, there aren't a lot of profitable films anymore, that make money the way they used to make money. So maybe there's a world. What's more profitable? Well, Men in Black is probably more profitable
Yeah, because you can go
than,
PG-13 or even younger, depending on what story you want to tell.
yeah,
And Bad Boys is always going to be our material. If you dilute
yeah.
it, the people, the hardcore fans aren't going to show up for it. So
And then
it's
also you can probably merchandise Men in Black far more than you can do with Bad Boys or anything like that. Because now it's
I
all about
think,
merchandising more than ever.
I mean, for everybody that has issues with Will Smith, I I would imagine that his movies will still do well globally. You think somebody in the China box office or the European box office, you think they care a black man slapped a black man? Man, put that Will Smith DVD in. Let's watch that shit. Really give a fuck.
that is true. Like, I mean, I had no hesitation like watching this and immediately like going back to loving Will Smith, because for me, like especially in the mid '90s, there was very few black male role models like I saw on TV and I had in my life. So Will Smith being on Fresh Prince and now this, I was like, oh shit, he's like my hero. And then it's like Chris Rock and Martin Lawrence. But the thing is, Will Smith, like for me, was an actor for some reason. I don't know if it's because I saw the 6 Degrees of Separation before, so that was like his first
Yeah.
real. And so I was like, oh, Will Smith's like an actor, but he's just also really funny too, and he can rap, getting jiggy with it and stuff. And that's why it was hard for me to like kind of to deal with the situation that happened earlier this year between him and Chris Rock, because they're both my heroes in their different respects. But man, just watching this was like nostalgic for me. It was like, oh, back in the time when I didn't have to worry about bills, things were still pretty good. I hadn't gone to middle school yet. I realized how evil these black kids can be. It was all good.
Which is how evil middle school could be.
Oh man, I'm writing a pilot about it right now. I'm trying to. That's my therapy. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's what this just brought back a lot of like positive memories, no, despite how violent it is, because there is the way they shoot that the black sex worker who's Mike's friend at the beginning. I was like, damn, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was just like, why don't you model for me? She goes around, she's like, pillow.
That's also a film that I feel like, to a degree, I'm okay with the plot of that movie. Like, it wasn't some big super duper world domination. Mwahahaha. Like, when you think about most fucking cop movies, 9 times out of 10, it's a pretty mundane thing the criminal is like. Was it Lethal Weapon 2 where they were just simply trying to get armor-piercing bullets off the streets?
Oh, yeah.
Some guy has bullets that go through bulletproof vests. We gotta stop him. And that was it. That was the whole premise of the movie, was find the armor piercing. But that might have been the first one. I can't remember. The second was the
I don't think.
diplomatic immunity.
Well, no, but I mean, because armor piercing bullets are typically
Yeah, I don't think that was the first one. because I think the first one was
So
a lot about like just building up their dynamic, and like I think the fuck, who was the
okay,
villain?
so then the second one was armor piercing, then the third one was witness protection
Yes,
with
with
Joe
Joe Pesci.
Pesci.
The fourth one was
So
with Jet Li.
yeah, you
I
add
remember he
Chris
fucked
Rock
up.
and Rene Russo. Like that poster had like 12 motherfuckers on it. It looked like an Avengers.
But
um yeah, it's interesting though. It's very interesting in that Bad Boys is just somebody stole the cocaine.
Out of the police locker.
which
Where
is
we gonna find the cocaine? Hey motherfucker, you usually cutting cocaine. Do you know who stole the cocaine?
what
Like
their
that's
department would have been shut down though, right? Like from the beginning, like it's clearly an inside job.
yeah,
The whole department would have
yeah.
been shut. They don't have
And
jobs.
that's the other thing is that when you look at when I've gone back and watched that film a couple of times and they go, it could have been an inside job, and then they quietly cut to the snitch secretary who was the insider,
For
and you
shifty
don't
eyes.
even pick up on it. Yeah, you don't even pick up on it. Like you didn't even see the tip. Like they fucking tipped what it fucking was, and you just fucking missed it.
Yeah, the
You
first
weren't
time I
paying
saw it, I
attention.
thought she just went to fuck Mike. That's why she was making that face. She was like, "Oh, Mike,"
Yeah,
but then she
she had the
walked away. She's
sexy
like,
ass. Yeah,
"It's because
yeah,
she was dating some dude that blackmailed her, right? He was going to post pictures of her naked all around her
yeah.
school."
So the
Which
guy
in
who stole the
1995
cocaine.
that was a huge thing, but now she could have just started an OnlyFans and countered that and fucking quit the department, balling out of control.
She could at least be somewhere in Dubai getting, some dude shitting on her chest for
Yeah, but in
bundles.
1995, oh shit, they gonna
Yep.
see my titties. I must give away the full construction and ventilation plan so that they can get the fucking cocaine.
And then they
Don't-
didn't have the right chemist who could break up the cocaine in the timeline he had. He had the dude from the King of Staten Island and is always in those Italian movies. He's just like,
Yeah,
I don't know if we're gonna be able to make it. He's like, you're fucking up my timeline. I was like, I don't know why we needed this
do
scene.
not fuck with my timetable. Like that whole film was just, you could tell that they just put Will and Martin in the scene and was like, here's the general direction of the scene.
Yep.
You two figure out how to get there. Like that's a film I would love to watch a director's cut. I would happily watch a 3-hour, 30-minute version of
But
the
I
first Bad Boys.
but I think based on what I've learned and read about Michael Bay is I think that's the reason why he bowed out of trying to do the third one with them, because by the time they got to the second one, they were all incredibly popular. Michael Bay had done Transformers, like everything was coming up for everybody. And I think at a
Yeah.
certain point, they all recognized ego. And I think that's why Michael Bay was like, you know what, I'm good to step back from this one. He has a cameo on Bad Boys for Life, so they're obviously
Yeah.
still cool.
Yeah.
But he was like, you know what,
Yeah.
because you hear about Michael Bay getting in fights with Shia LaBeouf and John Krasinski and a bunch of people
Megan
on
Fox
sets.
and all that.
You know what I
yeah.
mean? So it's like
Yeah.
I
You need-
appreciate that
He
he
needs young people that can't say no, basically.
That's
maybe
interesting.
because the fight happened in Transformers 2, but that's when everyone was fucking up. Everyone was out of their goddamn mind.
Yeah.
That movie was out of his goddamn mind. You blew up a fucking Egyptian pyramid or some shit. Like it was too much going on. I'm not crazy about the Transformers films. Like it's like, well, I know they're not for me. I'll put it that way. They are to sell toys to the next me.
But
and I
at
don't
the
know.
same time, I mean, they for sure were. It wasn't for us when they had two robots who were shucking and jiving.
Oh yeah.
With gold fronts.
Yeah.
When that happened, I was just like, transfer. Nah, yeah, I get my money. Never
Yeah,
again.
it was more the issue of just how the robots looked more
Yeah.
than anything. Like I just wasn't crazy about the visuals. Like I thought the transformation process was like, oh, this is amazing graphics and fucking effects. But like just I don't know, man. Optimus Prime stay getting fucking dish ragged, and then like in the last minute, nigga pull out a sword or some shit, and fucking like I
Yeah.
don't know. Megatron is like, this is a terrible deep cut reference, but I understand When they did Fantastic Four Part 2, Freddie Prinze, Michael Chiklis iteration of Fantastic
Prince.
Four. Freddie
No,
Prinze Jr.
no, that was that was a different actor. As it wasn't Freddie Prinze Jr.
Well, who the fuck was that?
Played Reed Richards.
Yeah.
It's like Ian something. Like yeah, it's like
it was a weird looking this other looking white guy.
I can see why you might think it was Freddie Prinze Jr., but
God, I just did racism.
now I gotta look it up. Fantastic.
Wait, was he? He wasn't? No, I guess Freddie Prinze wasn't in it. So then who was the fucking guy? Yeah, see, that's close. All right, see, that's not racism.
Yeah, his name is Ian Grufford.
Yeah, Human Torch guy. Yeah, there you go. Sorry about that, Ian. No disrespect. When they did Silver Surfer and the way that they represented Galactus,
Yeah.
and like the comic book people were like, that planet is so much worse and bigger and just sinister and just they just made it seem like just a bullshit asteroid that was coming to Earth. That's kind of how I feel about the portrayal of the Decepticons and, you know, fucking Shockwave and Megatron. Like, Megatron is a dirty dick ass motherfucker, bro.
But
I mean, he fucking shot Optimus Prime in the chest 2 times. That was at the beginning of the movie. Like, that shit was raw as fuck. Like, I would respect Transformers if they killed Optimus Prime. I'd be like, okay, they ain't fucking around. But you can't fuck up the toys.
I don't know if you remember the third one, though, which was, I forgot what it's called, but
that was the last one I watched.
Leonard Nimoy plays the big bad in that movie. And he gets all like the Megatrons and all them like to join him and fight against Optimus and his crew. Optimus and them, they leave planet Earth, and then they come back for the third act, and Optimus Prime declares, "We're gonna kill them all," and he proceeds to viciously destroy all of his enemies. And I remember seeing that. I'm like, "Oh, this is jumping the shark now," because Optimus Prime just became a murdering psychopath. He's just cutting niggas down. He's ripping their heads off and shit. I was like,
Then he ripped one of their heads off with their spine, and then stomped on their neck, and then screamed at the camera, and then threw the head. Like, I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
But I was there for that violence at that point, because it was nothing but robots.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I will say, actually, like to Roy's point, I did like how contained this movie was. It's not hard to follow. And then there's still like a lot of comedy, like when you know, Tay Leone's fucking with Martin, thinking that, you know, his wife is hooking up with Mike, and then he goes to the house, they almost close their cover, and they had to fight in the kiddie pool, and like the guys from the bad guy are like scoping them out and shit. They're like, why are they fighting outside their house? What's going on?
We could just sneak up on them right now. I also like that, even though, yes, this is in Miami, we had a lot of these, you know, the bad guys, the gangsters, just had to be Italian. Because had these random Italian guys, but typically, you know, it just didn't. It was just weird. It just, some parts like that. It was just weird. It's like the people that they chose be like, okay, you're one of our lead bad guys in this one. This little Italian dude.
Well, that's why the second one, they progressively gotten darker. You know, they had the Haitians and they had you know, the Cubans, and then the third one, whatever the fuck, his son.
Yeah, Mexican, which half black, half Mexican.
Exactly.
I know, minority representation in the villains of Bad Boy. You know, we don't just need white villains. Yeah, it was Johnny Tapia. Me, Johnny Tapia.
I do have a question though. What was up with the doorman? He wasn't all there.
Chet.
I was worried about Chet. I was like, he ain't gonna have a job after this.
He would have been a nice callback. They should have had him like running like a restaurant or something. Hey, Mr. Lowry, Mr. Burnett, good to see you again. But I guess they didn't want to overload it with cameos.
Establishment, are you?
I wouldn't want to eat anywhere where that guy was managing.
Yeah,
even if he was managing IHOP, I'd be worried.
Hey,
actually, I would have rather seen him, you know, as a cop after that happened. That he actually went and got into.
Well, remember, he took the test and then things just didn't work out, which means
but like, you know, he did that, and then like maybe Mike tried to help him out a little bit, and he actually got past through. So he was in the precinct now.
How many
Yeah,
times can you take the police test? But is
How
it
many
like your
times you want?
driver's,
I don't know,
license test? Can you
2,
like
maybe
take it
3.
two
I
or
took the police test once.
what kind of questions do they ask on that?
A bunch of crazy stuff. That like you have to take a psych eval. It's a whole bunch of stuff. Obviously, I did not pass that test.
I was gonna say, like, you're not a cop. You never talked about trying
But
to.
then
You
again,
know
you know
what?
what? At the same time, I know a few people who are police officers, and I'm just like, wait, they took you? They took you? And it's like, how did I get in? But I also
You,
feel like there are certain things. It's like some of those questions are truly about like authority, and they're kind of gauging how well you stay in line.
you know what's low key a hard test, bro, is a fucking firefighter exam.
Yeah.
They
Mm,
be asking you all types of like chemical composition type fucking, if you're in this type of dwelling with this type of fucking made from this type of wood, how fast will the core temperature of the kilojoules and the Kelvin reach and what fucking water hose? Water. The answer is always water. So I don't know why we're doing all of this extra chemical shit unless it's jet fuel, which doesn't fucking need what you use foam.
yep.
Like that's all. But the question, I had a buddy who was getting qualified to go to the fire. He was in the fire college in state of Florida, and he was showing me this shit, and that book was thick as fuck, and I'm like, water. It don't matter.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
know if for that airport hangar in the third act, I don't know if water would have saved that place. They blew that to high heaven.
Well, I
I
mean, it was
wonder.
packed full of jet fuel.
Yeah, that's
And
classic
money.
Bruckheimer. I mean, the airport hangar, when you look back and look at the airport hangar explosion and then look at the Cuban mansion explosion in the second one, it's like, oh, okay, you got more money.
Yep.
Like, okay, this makes perfect sense.
That was so crazy though when Will jumps in the car, he gets shot in the shoulder and it takes him forever to get up. It's so dramatic. Like he's like, "Come on, Mike, get in the car." It's like, it's like,
Oh, my
just grab him.
shoulder.
Yeah, get out and just
Yeah.
roll his ass in there.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah, but that was his hero moment. That was his
Mm-hmm.
hero moment to finally become a man with a bullet in the fucking shoulder.
Yep, that's right.
But yeah, it was a, for me, it's a good movie. It's one of those movies I can always watch no matter what's on television. Like I can always fucking put the remote down, watch it on mute at this point, and know what the fuck is happening.
Okay. Well, Justin, to that point, break down our rating system, baby.
Stop calling me baby. So we rate movies bags of popcorn, small, medium, large, and the XL for the exceptional. If a film doesn't deserve any popcorn, we throw it into the dog shit pile. We pile piles and piles of dog shit on top of it. So we sat down and watched the 2000, the 1995 film Bad Boys, starring Martin Lawrence, Will Smith, Tia Leone. Roy, what say you, sir?
It's not exceptional. Okay, it's a good movie. It's a very good movie, very entertaining. So I'm gonna go large bag of popcorn.
Okay.
I might, by the end of this, I might switch to extra large, but I think for now we'll just go large.
Okay.
Okay. Brandon.
I'm going XL. I love this movie. I haven't laughed this hard in a movie like all year. I like really, really enjoyed it. And it's also like it's got timeless jokes. Like it's not like specific to the 90s. Obviously the soundtrack is, but the jokes themselves are like universal. Like just the banter, it's just relevant. Like it's not relevant, but you can just connect to it on so many levels. And I appreciate what it stood for, especially in the mid 90s, having these two black leads leading an action comedy that had a pretty decent budget and also was a huge box office hit. Yeah, this is an XL for me. This is a classic. Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a large as well. It's a great movie. It's a great movie. This one of my favorite movies.
Y'all not doing right by this movie. Y'all not doing right.
I could watch it all over and over again. But like the one thing that bothers me, not even about this movie, but it's like critically, it wasn't well received. And I don't understand how critically this wasn't a well received film. I think it has a rating of like 43%.
Well, it's the mid-90s, and it stars two black men with guns the whole time. So I
Yeah.
can see critics just being like,
Yeah.
"Ugh, we're not trying to encourage people to see this to get
Yeah.
normalize this shit." You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Can the rapper turned sitcom goofball be serious hardcore action hero? And that in the 90s was Muscle City, bro.
It
That's
is, it's true.
fucking Schwarzenegger and Tom Cruise. It's the rise of Jason Statham. You
Yep.
know,
Yeah,
so
the transporter.
Yeah, Snatch and Transformer and stuff. Yep.
first Transporter still stands up too. The fucking
does.
bus and the fucking oil fight
The
scene.
oil- yeah.
Yeah, just separate conversation, but yeah. Yeah, I get why critics would have shit on it at the time. You know, they just didn't fucking know. They didn't know they were in the presence of greatness. Although
But
the
I'll
second
also
Bad
say-
Boys was like 10 minutes too long.
10 minutes. I thought it was 30. And I was in high school when that came out. I remember being like, it's still going. Why are they going to Cuba now? Like, I'm like,
Well, they had to get it back, man. That wasn't going to flow over to a third
Gabrielle
one.
Union fucked up. She deserved to get. She got. It's
It
okay.
was this man's sister.
Hey,
you gotta go for
Yeah.
family.
Exactly. And then
One thing
broke
I
up
will
with her
say, though-
before the third movie.
Mhm.
This film, you know, if you're looking at this series as a whole, this is, and I think one of our listeners actually said it as well. Like, this is one of the few movies where they were both like bad boys. You know what I'm saying? Because in the second movie, Martin, you know, he got shot in the ass, and then he was having the psychological issues and things like that, and his dick wasn't
Yeah.
working.
Well,
Then
all
the
these
third
movies he
movie,
talks
he's
about his dick.
retired. What's that?
All these movies he talks about his dick and how he's not getting any. That's the.
Well, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
but in this movie, he was trying to get his dick wet, and it wasn't happening for him
Mhm.
because he was spending too much time being a cop. The second
Going
one
through
is
some
like, it
things.
don't work for me anymore. And the third one, he's like, I'm retired. So like, this is like the only movie where Martin was just as bad as Will was.
Yeah.
You know, as far as like being being destructive animal of this city, and like they were the worst thing that happened to criminals.
We didn't even talk about the scene where like he takes Tia Leone back to Will Smith's apartment, and there's all the pictures of Will Smith, and he's like,
it's
"Oh yeah,
Oh,
like, that's all the
yeah.
times he saved my life." You know, he
Yeah,
saved my
like
life.
almost homophobic scene.
I thought you were gay. He's like, "Oh, what? Say what? Say what?"
You
Oh,
feel
no,
all them
no,
guts
no.
in that bed?
Oh no, I'm
That's
not.
my
Ain't none of
list.
that. Ain't none of that happening around here. It was like just on the line.
Yep. He's like, "I bring the thunder."
Yeah.
But Roy, thank you so much for joining us, man. It's been we've been trying to get you on for quite some time. So appreciative because I know
Yeah,
you're
pleasure.
very, very busy.
Well, we ripping and running, gentlemen, but always happy to sit down and talk shit.
Yeah, and how can our listeners follow you and keep up with any developments you may
just-
have in your career? Wink,
Just
wink.
put a @ in front of my name, put a .com on the backside, and that's me. And then next time I come back, we can talk Daily Show and all of the chaos that is late night television right now.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
We didn't want to talk about it too much because we know you've been on, a bunch of podcasts and stuff talking.
But the thing about it is that I really don't have nothing to say yet because I don't look. All I know is that I like working, so I want to keep working.
Yes, exactly.
So-
Listen, as long as you keep on cashing those checks, you're doing good.
Listen, I'm entering my Steve Harvey Rising Moon portion of my career. So if a motherfucker offer me a job, I'm gonna say yes. I say yes to work. I ain't gonna say no. So, I like what I do and I hope to still be doing it in some capacity. I don't know what capacity that'll be next year, but as far as I'm concerned, if Comedy Central still want me, this shit pay the bills. It's been a good relationship. So that's what we gonna do.
Sounds good. And if you ever need a movie review segment, whatever you end up doing in the future, you got these two brothers right here.
Yeah, I mean, just know that Brandon can't read though. So
I can read. I just have trouble saying them, reading words.
All right, y'all.
Thank you so much,
Hey,
Roy.
All right,
Thanks,
y'all.
Roy.
Respect. Yep.
And then Justin, how can people follow you, bro? If they feel
guys, you can follow me at J Brown Did It on Twitter and Instagram. Brandon.
Y'all can follow me in American Collins, AmericanCollins.com. You can follow the show, Medium P Podcast, on all social media platforms. Be sure to go to youtube.com/Medium Popcorn, push that subscribe button so you get alert about all future celebrity interviews, as well as get to see our ugly mugs as we break down these movies for you. And then, Justin, if people want to support the show financially, what can they do, my brother?
It's only one place. It's only one place. And that is patreon.com/medium popcorn. We have $2, $5, $10, and $15 packages where you have bonus episodes. You have bonus mini shows. You have our entire backlog of our podcast goes to Patreon. So if you're a fan of the show, you want Idris Elba to read your name out and tell you welcome to being a Patriot, that's where you got to go. And if you're feeling extra froggy, why don't you go to tpublic.com and grab yourself a little swag, maybe a t-shirt, maybe a koozie. I don't know, a mug. I'll get anything you need.
What's a koozie?
That's what you put your beer in or your soda.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking like, I don't know. My mind just thought of something really weird.
Yeah, no, we're not promoting AdamandEve.com.
By the way, Adam and Eve, if you want to sponsor us, let us know, because we
could get some Medium Popcorn branded products.
Okay. But speaking of Patriots, Justin, we did get some Patriot thoughts for Bad Boys. And folks, remember, if you sign up for Patreon, you are guaranteed to have your thoughts and comments for the future episodes read on that show. So first up, we have Justin, who wrote, "Love this movie, very entertaining, one of Will Smith's best performances, same for Martin XL Popcorn." L wrote, "I love the entire series. Will held his weight in terms of comedy with Martin XL." Zach Sheely wrote, "This movie has the perfect balance of action and comedy. Martin has some of the best quotes in the movie. How come I always get the big Popeyes chicken eating motherfucker? Overall, this is a classic film, although it does have a wonky plot, still gets an XL." Sid Tobias wrote, "One of the greatest action movies ever made, and it's two black legends at the helm. Hell yeah." On My Pancakes wrote, "This is by far my favorite of the three. It's the only one where they're both bad boys." To your point, Justin.
There you go.
Yep. We get angry Martin in this one. We get scared Martin in the others. Basically, after the first Bad Boys, Will turns into Mel Gibson and Martin turns into Danny Glover. XL and some Skittles. Oh, never had that one. And then Sean C. wrote, "One of my favorite movies ever." There you go, folks. Bad Boys with Mr. Roy Wood Jr. Hope you all enjoyed the show. Again, sign up for Patreon, patreon.com/Medium Popcorn. And, money's tight. Just leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it on the show. 5-star. Bye, y'all.